Hello, this is Kinninigan from RagingReptilian.com. Today I'm going to give a lecture. This is by request of a friend of mine, also a subscriber. It was in after a conversation we had about the recent video I just made about David Chappelle's Netflix comedy, in which I called Sticks and Clones. In fact, I covered this subject and the Donald Marshall Manifesto on my other channel, so this is actually a remake of a video I did previously on my original Kinninigan channel, except I am not going to be covering the Donald Marshall Manifesto. I'm going to do that in a separate video. But I do have some, whenever I redo these lectures, I always have some new things, because obviously as I do more research I get a little better at it. Hopefully by the end of this video I will show you all the science behind cloning. I also have a few companies pulled up that specialize in human cloning, and I will be able to answer some of the questions for you. One question that happens a lot, although we're really not allowed to talk about it on YouTube anymore, is I get asked a lot, and so do other researchers, Ken, how are these transsexuals in Hollywood having babies? Well, guess what? I found a company that specializes in human cloning for transgenders by taking the DNA from the whatever they identify as, the mother and the father, and using a surrogate womb to birth a child. And this is a very creepy company that's based out of the Bahamas that does this, very Island of Dr. Moreau stuff, and there's more reality to this than most want to believe. I was able to so the main topic on this website is going to be the different types of clones that we're talking about. Clones, synthetics, organic robotoids, and doubles. And we'll go into a lot of the science on each one of these. Now, I pulled this up. Obviously, this was in response. I've done a few videos on clones here. The most recent one with Black Mirror, the Miley Cyrus episode, where and what the Miley Cyrus episode in Black Mirror dealt with is why they would resort to cloning in Hollywood. There's a few reasons. One is ritual human sacrifice, where they will sacrifice a real celebrity. The second one is MK Ultra mind control breakdown. They make a lot of money off celebrities and pop musicians. However, MK Ultra mind control breaks down in most people. Most infamous case in Hollywood has been Britney Spears, who's probably been replaced multiple times and had multiple mental breakdowns. Typically between the ages of 25 and 31, according to the website I did a lecture on with Aleister Crowley, is when typical MK Ultra mind control victims will break down. When they do break down, they, under the guise of going to rehab or getting mental health, or, you know, what other BS excuse they want to give to why the celebrity has to go away for a while, we theorize that at that time they are actually being replaced and cloned. Now, how real is this? Well, this was a video, I believe I salvaged this off my other channel, about David Chappelle's family claiming that he was killed and cloned by the Illuminati, and I just made that video. I'll put the links in the description. The reason why he was replaced when he went to Africa was because he refused to wear a dress in a movie with Martin Lawrence, where all black actors have to go through that ritual of wearing a dress on movies, and he talked about it on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And look at the side-by-side comparison here. This is the David Chappelle that just did the Sticks and Stones Comedy Central thing. This is the original David Chappelle. Now, right off the bat, listen, I don't care if you pump steroids and you lift weights. First of all, Dave Chappelle was skinny. We all know that. Look how skinny he is in this. Secondly, look at the skulls on the two. They're not the same. This skull is bigger. I'm sorry, but if you lift weights or you pump, you know, you put on this much muscle mass, it's not going to change the size of your skull. So David Chappelle was one of the most obvious ones. Another one that comes to mind as far as celebrities go is Eminem. because the new Eminem looks nothing like the original Slim Shady. We all know that. Now, before I get into the article in the clone synthetics and organic robotoids, I'm going to show you a few things here that should be of interest. We have a few companies out there that admit that they can do cloning. This is a company, I'll put all these links in the description. I'm not going to be reading this. This is just an article, and then I have something a little more disturbing to show you with an actual website, which offers services that are very creepy. I'll show you this in a second. Now, China has a giant cloning factory. It says it's advanced enough to start experimenting on humans if it's allowed to. Yeah, there are a lot of moral and ethical things that come in with quote-unquote human cloning. Now, if this is what we can get in the public domain, imagine what they are able to do without telling us. One of the issues that has always been being able to be addressed with human cloning is how do you transfer the human soul and consciousness. That's why you'll often hear me refer to these clones as soulless, because the transfer of the human soul and human consciousness does become an issue. You can get a clone to act in the likeness of someone, but you're not exactly going to be able to transfer the human consciousness or the soul. Very interesting things here. Now, China claims that this cloning facility that is advanced enough to clone humans, they wanted to do it to clone animals, specifically cattle, to deal with China's beef shortages. If I had to endorse cloning in any way, yeah, you know, to solve a starvation problem in a country, cloning animals for a food supply, I don't see that as being very bad. Cloning, we already do it with vegetables. We do it with marijuana. That's how marijuana is typically grown, is with clones. So it's been done. You know, you get the idea. Cloning animals for a supply of food. Yeah, well, that's what China claims they want to do. But now China claims that they are advanced enough to start experimenting on humans. Don't think they haven't. But there comes some moral and ethical issues in with this, right? So, you know, this is what we're getting that they admit they can do. And this article was published December 1st, 2015. However, cloning goes back a lot longer than this in the ability to do it. We'll get into that in a second. This is an article, if you're interested, that I found from Medical Daily. This is kind of a bubblegum excuse on the ethical and moral things on human cloning, of how far we've come and what we're capable of doing. And this was published 2015 also. However, you're all familiar with Dolly the sheep, and there's a lot of metaphors with cloning, quote-unquote, Dolly the sheep, since they refer to us as human sheep or cattle. And I find it very interesting that China says they want to clone cattle when they often refer to us, the elite, as human cattle, or the sheeple. A lot of metaphors in here they put right in your face. So this is an interesting article on what they claim that we are capable of. Now things are going to get a little more strange. News Scientist, this link will be in the description also. 27 December 2002. First clone baby born on 26th of December. Now, I don't think this is the first clone baby ever born, but this is the first one admitted. Now, I got the company that claims to have did this pulled up. We'll look at their website in a second. The world's first clone baby was born on 26th December. Claims the Bahamas-based cloning company Clonaid. Yeah, why are they in the Bahamas? Well, that keeps them off U.S. soil now, doesn't it? But there has been no independent confirmation of the claim. The girl, named Eve, talk about metaphors there, by the cloning team, was said to have been born by cesarean section at 11:55 Eastern Standard Time. The birth at an undisclosed location went very well, says Bridget Bosslier, president of Clonaid. I don't think that's her real name. And I'll tell you why in a second. Clonaid is not the actual name of the company. They admit right on their website that that is a false name, and they won't give the real name of the company for security reasons. Gee, I wonder why. But this is where things get strange. The company was formed in 1997 by the Reptilian cult which believes that people are clones of aliens. Now, if you don't know anything about the reptilian UFO cult, they're kind of like on the line of Scientologists, very strange people there. The baby is very healthy. She's doing fine. Rossler told a press conference in Hollywood, Florida. Look at the symbolism. Hollywood. Come on. Hollywood. Now, this is Hollywood, Florida. Come on. A lot of symbolism right in your face here if you know how to read through it. On Friday, the 7-pound baby, you get some more occult symbolism there in the 7 days of creation now, right? Is a 31-year-old American woman whose partner is infertile, she said. Proving that the baby is a clone of another person would be possible by showing that their DNA is identical. Genetic tests on the baby and mother will now be carried out, and the results will be available in 8 or 9 days, Bosslier said. Now, I'm not going to read any more of this because I actually have Clonaid's website pulled up. Now, here is the website. Yeah, and this is going to answer your question right now. How do trannies have babies? How do gay people have babies? Well, they can clone themselves. And this is part of the services they offer here. Clonaid is the world's leading provider of reproductive human cloning services. Eve, the first clone baby, was born... yeah, well, we just read that. Thanks to our team of highly skilled scientists. Since then, we've been able to help other patients have their own children through our cloning technology. Hence, why we get people like Beyonce, who is transgendered, getting caught wearing moon bumps. Well, where do the babies come from? Everyone wants to know. Well, use a company like Clonaid. Except right over here, they put a disclaimer on their site. I'll show you in a second. This is not the actual name of their company. You can contact them. Very weird, you know. But Clonaid is the name of a project, they said. Clonaid can help you if you're sterile and have lost hope of having a child that you dream of. If you're a homosexual and deeply desire a child who you would carry your own genes. That would also put under the umbrella of transgender, obviously. So yeah, that's how trannies can have babies. If you've just lost or about to lose a beloved family member and would like to see an identical twin of that person begin a new life. Now, this is where things get creepy. Yes, this company is claiming that if you have a family member that dies, they will clone them for you. Is it the same person? No. Because, like I said, you cannot transfer a human soul or human consciousness. Yeah, they can grow a clone from the DNA, but it's not going to... It's just creepy. Could you imagine a cloned family member? It's not going to be the same person, spiritually at least. If you're HIV positive and want to have a child that will be your genetic twin without infecting either the baby or your partner with the virus, or simply if you want to be cloned, whatever your reasons may be. Wow. And you think that this stuff... You know, this is not a conspiracy theory. I would identify this video that I'm covering as more scientific in nature, not conspiratorial, even with the conspiracy of the Hollywood cloning, because this company is basically admitting to being able to do what we've been stating for a long time. The only difference is, like I said, what we can't find in the public domain is the ability to clone somebody and age that clone to, you know, say they want to replace Miley Cyrus and she's 26 years old. Well, the clone's going to have to be 26 years old or aged that long. So you're talking about the ability to not only clone, but age the clone to the desired age as well, which they won't admit to being able to do. So simply, like, if you want to be cloned for whatever reasons, I don't know if this company is claiming that they can clone you to the same age you are. If it's a baby that just, it's very weird. Now they claim they have a contact form here if you want to get yourself cloned, or a dead family member, or you're a tranny that wants to have a baby. It says after several days the cloned embryo will be implanted in the patient's womb or that of a surrogate mother. The patient or surrogate mother will carry the fetus to term through a normal 9-month pregnancy. The baby, a genetic twin or clone of the cell donor, will be delivered, and a new human life, that of the desired child, will begin. Right. Now this the history of the company here. The stuff just gets very strange with these people. Like I said, these are based on the reptilian cult. It's a UFO cult that's running this company. Very strange, first of all. Why, you know. So the products they offer here, they don't obviously put any prices on here. Chamber method. Is that growing human clones in a chamber? I don't know. It's just... And right over here you'll see, did you know Clone8 is a project name. The company under which we operate is different and not revealed for obvious security reasons as to protect the safety of its employees and customers. This is, I find this part interesting too, the FAQ part. And then obviously, you know, it's just, this is creepy stuff. This is the only way you can get in touch with this company, Clone8, who's obviously not the real name. You gotta fill out this contact form and they will contact you or whatever. You're being vetted, obviously, when you do this because, first of all, why are they in the Bahamas off U.S. soil? Two, they're being run by a UFO reptilian cult, which is, those people are kind of like just as crazy as Scientologists are. Very strange things here. Two, it adds more credence to the possibility of, yes, they can replace people in Hollywood with human clones, and there are companies out there doing it. Like I just showed you. Imagine how many more companies are out there offering these services that we don't know about, and we don't really specifically know what they are capable of besides just offering a cloned embryo that's implanted into a surrogate mother. Can they also age these clones, and how do they deal with the... remember, you can clone yourself, but it's not going to be the same, and it gets into the issue of the human soul and transfer of consciousness and all that. Secondly, when you we'll get a little more into the this when I read the next article about the clone synthetic and organic robotoids, but it's been kind of a theory that, you know, they do have the ability to see if you clone someone. You can probably clone them and get the likeness of somebody, but it's not going to be that same person. So we think that their cloning has come a little more advanced than that, that yes, they can extract certain memories and stuff from the human brain and implant it into the new clone. Very strange things right there. I'm going to also, you know, if anyone's interested in watching some movies or TV shows that deal with these issues, here's one that I would suggest. If you want to learn about organic robotoids, I would suggest watching the remake of the Michael Crichton. Now, this was originally a movie by Michael Crichton, the author of Jurassic Park. He's done quite a few books on cloning. Westworld. This deals with organic robotoids. If you watch the TV series Westworld on HBO, 2 seasons are out so far. It was or if you've seen the original movie from Michael Crichton, which I believe came out in the 70s, I would suggest this. I've watched it. This deals with the idea of organic robotoids, and basically you can go to this amusement park called Westworld, where you can kill these organic robotoids. You can have sex with them. They act and think and interact just like humans. Except the issue and the plot line in the show is that these organic robotoids start to become consciously aware of themselves and want to destroy the humans. Yeah, this is some of the issues we get into with cloning, hence Jurassic Park, right? Cloning dinosaurs. There's a few other movies, it's mentioned in the article here, and another infamous one that deals obviously with the human cloning in Hollywood is The Island, the 2005 Michael Bay movie. I would highly suggest this. This movie revolves around the 2 stars of it, Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor. 2 people that escape from this quote-unquote island where they're held in captivity, only to find out that they are clones of real humans in the real world. Now, in The Island, they do have the ability to age clones and bring them up to the current age of the person who they were cloned from. Very interesting. A lot of symbolism in movies right in your face right there. And there's been a few other movies that deal with the issue. Now, one thing that is not mentioned in the article, which I've always found interesting, is doppelgangers. And here's an article I had pulled up here if you're interested. 18 celebrities and their historical doppelgangers. These are basically celebrities that we have today that look exactly like people in history. Now we're getting a little conspiratorial here, right? So if you're interested, I've always found the idea of doppelgangers interesting. Like Bruce Willis looking like World War II General Douglas MacArthur. Ellen DeGeneres looking like Henry David Thoreau. Very interesting things here. The one I find really interesting because, yeah, Jack Black looks like the Barber of Seville. Like Christopher Lloyd looks like John C. Calhoun, right? Yeah, these are doppelgangers. Anthony Hopkins. Now, Anthony Hopkins, he stars in Westworld on HBO. He's the one that runs the facility. Looks like the bust of philosopher Socrates. Very interesting things. Now let's get into some of the real science here. This is at a website, Biblioapocalyptes. This is a salvaged from a website that was published years ago, and like I said, it's just going to go over the basics of what the difference between a clone, a synthetic, organic robotoid, and doubles. Now, body doubles, not a big conspiracy there. We know that presidents and other people throughout history, the most infamous one being Hitler and his double being killed in the bunker at World War II. It was a body double. It came out. That was declassified by the CIA of all people. You know, everything starts out as a conspiracy until we find out that they really, there's truth to this and they do have the ability to do it. So, after showing you, yes, there are companies out there that offer services for human cloning. Now you do realize the reality of trannies in Hollywood having babies from clones is real, because there's companies out there that will do it. Let's read. I'm going to increase the text size here so you can read along with me. Now this is an excerpt from a book by Fritz Sprigmeyer, Deeper Insights into the Illuminati Formula. Now he refers to the Illuminati. Illuminati is a genetically used term. I don't like using it that much because when I refer to the Illuminati, I'm obviously referring to the reptilians, the reptilian elite. You know, people think everyone's Illuminati today and it's a secret society that anyone can join. No. Most people are puppets of the Illuminati, including a lot of secret societies themselves. That'll be another good future video, is explain to people what the real Illuminati is one day. And no, it's not the Adam Weishaupt Illuminati bullshit front story. That's not the real Illuminati. The ones I talk about come right from Babylon. And what's interesting about that, and why I'm mentioning it, it's theorized that the Anunnaki themselves created humans back then, and it would have been done with this genetic engineering. So this has been going on for quite a long time, not just from the first one to have been born in 2002. Okay, it's been going on, or 1997. By the reptilian cult, when they founded this Clonaid, which is not the real name of the company, but it's been going on a lot longer than that. Publicly announced genetic events. Now, the first clone was actually in 1890. A rabbit embryo was successfully transplanted to a foster mother's rabbit's uterus. Notice the symbology here, too. Follow the white rabbit, you know. They use a lot of metaphors and symbology with this, but in 1890, scientists were able to start transferring embryos into foster or surrogate wombs. Very interesting. 1944, A human ova was fertilized in vitro. That is, in layman's term, an egg was artificially inseminated in a test tube. You ever heard the term test tube baby? 1952, Briggs and King in Indiana University cloned a frog. 1970s, Rand Corporation predicts that parahumans will be genetically created to do menial tasks in the future. In a totally different affair, Lord Rothschild, who is a psychologist, physiologist who had studied genetics, warned that self-centered fanatics might set up cloning shops privately. Lord Rothschild, now he is Illuminati, suggested to genetic scientists that a clone-controlling organization with worldwide jurisdiction to license cloning be set up to protect the world from evil men who might want to clone people for evil purposes. He called his suggestion Commission for Genetical Control. Wow. See how they mock us? Lord Rothschild doesn't want evil men cloning people for evil purposes. Yeah, bullshit. He's probably the one, they're the ones behind the human cloning. Because their clones are very involved in social engineering to this day. That's why pop stars and celebrities are so important to them. 1977, year I was born. I'm not a clone, don't worry. Announcement of the first successful cloning of a person. No, that was not Kinninigan. Which was done for someone very wealthy. The whole affair came under strong attack by the establishment. The book giving the shrouded details came out in 1978. The author went into hiding, and our Congress had a parade of establishment research doctors to testify at a hearing to debunk the book and to reassure the public that medical researchers were far too concerned about ethics to clone people. The author was convinced of the veracity of the cloning event, although the media establishment doctors claim the author wrote the book merely as fiction. Bullshit. Yeah, you know what it is? They were testing the waters to see what kind of response they would get to admitting that this clone was born, and they got a lot of backlash from the public in it. Everything from moral to religious to ethical issues, right? 1980, twinning. Bisection of an embryo, which is a form of cloning, was successfully done with horsefowls. Sheep and cattle had already been cloned in this fashion in the previous years. Now, twinning. I believe that's what I'm talking about with the cloning and bringing them up to age, like in the movie of The Island. I guess you can call that twinning, making an identical copy of the person, and not just the baby, but the same age, and also being able to transfer the memories into that new clone. 1981, mice are cloned, and embryo transfer for cattle becomes a thriving business. 1983, a water buffalo embryo was successfully transplanted to a foster mother buffalo. 1984, what a year, right? A human embryo was successfully transplanted and born with a human foster mother. 1997, a successful human clone is publicly announced, and that is from the company Clonaid that I just showed you at their website, the reptilian UFO cult. So we got some pretty weird people already involved in this. We got Lord Rothschild, the reptilian cult. Scientists working in secret got serious about cloning in the early 1960s. Abortions began to be performed wholesale at this time to provide fetal tissue for their cloning work. Wow, who's pushing the abortion issue right now? Is that not the libtards out in Hollywood? Read through the lines on this. Yeah, fetal tissue becomes important for this cloning work. Planned Parenthood. Remember they were selling baby parts? And they got caught doing that on video. The young generation of Americans are asking, well, when will cloning of people take place? The answer is that it already has long ago. An article recently written by Andrew Kimbrough. Now this was archived off a website that comes from quite a while ago, so that wouldn't be a recent article by Andrew Kimbrough. It was probably referring to an article. Okay, 1993. There's my so this was in the 90s. that was placed in many leading daily newspapers across the U.S. is quite revealing. He comes right up to almost telling people what has been going on. The article was entitled, "Science is About to Deliver," June 22nd, 1993. So you can actually look this stuff up and find that article in a library somewhere, I'm assuming. Most Americans are unaware of the real-life exploits of current genetic engineers, science facts, which in many cases are as chilling as any science fiction. Pigs have been genetically designed to contain human growth genes in the hopes of creating super pigs that will have more meat. U.S. government and private researchers have expended billions of taxpayer dollars in the creation of tens of thousands of genetically engineered animals never before seen. One prominent scientist predicts that we may soon see 5-ton cows and pigs 12 feet long and 5 feet tall. Genetic engineers have cloned higher mammals, including cattle. One writer notes that genetic engineering has the potential to create a vast army of identical clones, each produced to some present specification. Cannon fodder, scientists, opera singers, all could be manufactured to order. Now, one thing that scares me about China claiming to be able to clone, we all know that China would just love to clone a super army and take over the world now, right? Yeah, maybe there's more truth in that than we want to believe. If you can clone 1 million soldiers, that becomes a worldwide threat there, especially with the military, right? Wouldn't matter if you're fighting real people, clones, or anything at that time. They can literally take a country over with overwhelming numbers of clones. The New York Times has editorialized, "Life is special and humans even more so, but biological machines are still machines that can now be altered, cloned, and patented." Wow, readers, do you realize that between the lines you are talking about bionic robotoids, the robots that are now being created to take place of people in high places? And the chilling idea that human-like machines will be produced that will not be treated as anything but machines, that is a chilling idea too. This ties in with the idea of transhumanism also. We already know that they've, in recent times, they've been releasing a lot of propaganda about robotic sex companions for people. Biological androids have become more of a reality in modern times. Another science fiction movie I would recommend if you're interested in that topic is Ex Machina, which was an excellent science fiction movie dealing with that. In this author's September 1993 newsletter, there were 2 articles by this author on cloning, one entitled "Clones, Synthetics, Organic Robotoids, and Doubles," which will probably be the name of this video, and the other at Dulce Genetic Research Cloning Facility. I will do a video about Dulce, because the only reason I'm not going to cover Dulce in this video, Dulce deals with the cloning of alien greys, or the Archons. And that is a fascinating subject. We'll talk about Dulce in another video, and there's quite a few theories about what's actually going on at that underground base. It's even more secretive than Area 51, except when you go out to Dulce, there's nothing to see because it's all underground. In the month following my September 1993 newsletter's release, the establishment came out with stories about humans being cloned. I felt that it was confirmation that gods had directed me to publish the information I had on cloning 1 or 2 months before the secular media came out with their stories about the first laboratory duplication of a human embryo. This 1993 cloning was the first publicly revealed and publicly accepted human cloning, but the truth is it had already been done for about 30 years secretly. In December 1993 newsletters, I had a follow-up article on cloning where I reviewed what the media was telling people about cloning after the first human cloning had been announced. My article also discussed the novel Multiple Men, which is about how exact copies of the presidents are made. the book had some surprising similarities with what they did actually with President Carter. Finally, in September of 1996, this article's newsletter came out with its fourth article on cloning. This appendix is not the final word on the topic. The whole topic about clones, synthetics, robotoids, and doubles could have a great deal more said. This appendix is merely a review of what those four articles contain, so this is kind of like just the bullet points of the articles, which is pretty good. Cloning also relates in a big way to the cranial body manipulation that was introduced in this book. It also relates to the group mind proxying that is being done. Hold on, I gotta get a drink of water. Give me 1 second here. Perhaps at some point this author can go into deeper intricacies of cloning, but for now this appendix will provide its information in the following format. Section A, the future shock that this topic subjects the common person to. Section B, instructions on how to clone a person. Section C, the four types of clones that are used by the Illuminati. I'll replace that with the elite. Number 1, actual clones. Number 2, synthetic people. Number 3, organic robotoids. That also addresses the issue how the memory of a person is transferred for the organic robotoids. And number 4, doubles, which are lookalikes. And Section D, secret cloning sites. Now, there are the secret cloning sites. There's quite a few of them. Now we know about this one that claims to be in the Bahamas with Clonaid. We know about the Dulce base in the that's been a conspiracy out there for a while. But getting into that movie I was just telling you about, the island here, this is an underground facility, a secret cloning facility also. So we can theorize on where these are, but we know there are a lot of installations underground. They're probably even doing cloning with aliens and human hybrids at all places, Area 51, and we have a lot of underground installations all throughout the world, so we know that. Section A, the future shock that this topic subjects the common person to. What happens when a technologically backward people are suddenly confronted with a technologically advanced people? What happens is that people are called on to change, in many cases the stress in what Alvin Toffler described and called future shock. The overstimulation of new ideas, new decisions, new ways of looking at things can cause great distress to the mind and body. Like when people become awoke, or when they wake up. I'm not referring to the woke left. I'm talking about waking up, like when you start following and watching people like Kinninigan's YouTube videos and other researchers on YouTube. And you start realizing that a lot of the stuff that we cover isn't so much of a conspiracy theory anymore. That's the future shock of when you first wake up. We all had it. I had it when I first started researching reptilians. One of the reasons I first started researching reptilians is I was set out to disprove it. But the more I researched it, the more I couldn't. Radical changes to adapt to the new situation are demanded. In the case of the Navajo, one can see pickups parked beside Hogans. In Nepal, where I live, the Nepalese have never gone through a horse and buggy era, so they had no word for drive in their language. When cars suddenly appeared, the first was carried into Kathmandu on the backs of porters. They had no word for drive, so they used the words sit and go. So where they say, let's drive to town, they will literally say, let's sit and go to town. The American people have in general been kept in the dark about the limits of scientific developments. The known reasons people have not learned about varied. The Cold War was one reason. Capitalist corporate advantage is another reason. They call it trade secrets. Scientific pride in the ability to outstrip other researchers is another, and for the public just their technological jargon is enough to prevent people from closely watching the level of research going on. But underlying most of the cover-up is this, that the overall satanic plan is to keep people ignorant of these scientific advances because they are being used quite often to control and manipulate the world. What has developed is a situation where the American people are no longer in touch with it and the elite's secret technology is. It is clear that the elite know this and are aware of some of the future shock needs to be reduced if they don't want to self-destruct society. You need to be aware, mentally prepared that most of the readers of this will experience future shock when they read that cloning of humans is possible and has gone on for decades. The elite had a dilemma. If society isn't moved forward to match their secret scientific advances, it will soon be cavemen meeting modern-day men. Society won't be capable of adjusting, only self-destructing. On the other hand, they certainly can't tell us what they are already doing, because they are using this technology against us to control us. For this reason, they are giving us movies that show us things that they have already invented. But these are put forth as fiction in these Hollywood films. They hope to lessen the future shock, which their own secrecy has greatly contributed toward creating, while maintaining control over the general population. Some of the films show existing technology. And remember, this was written in the 90s, so clone or cloning. Jurassic Park, that was about cloning. Genesis 2, underground genetics laboratories that are connected by tube shuttles. We know that to be very real. Terminal Man, which dealt with brainstem implants, and Star Trek. In addition to some of today's secret technology being shown, the attitudes and beliefs shown in the two series, especially Star Trek Next Generation, are the attitudes the satanic elite want people to have. Of course, we know that Star Trek Next Generation has an infamous biological android known as Data on that show, right? Readers prepare for the future shock. The scriptures gives us strong indications that genetic monsters, half-breed Nephilim, will exist in the end times. God's word also forecasts that the mark of the beast will be needed for buying and selling. One item conveyed by the Bible's book of Revelation is that totally unexpected sudden change will characterize the end times. Christians need to be prepared for unusual big changes. So great will be these changes that the nations will be distressed and men's hearts will fail them for fear. These are quotes from the Bible here. I'm not going to read the exact quotes, but the Bible predicted that knowledge shall increase in the last days before Christ returns, but that knowledge will be used for evil, because the Bible also says the world will be totally corrupt as in Noah's time, which was the time of genetic monsters, the half-bred Nephilim. It also says men and horses will be out of work, and it is believed that Nahum must be describing automobiles, and that Isaiah 31:5 and 68 are describing the prophesizing airships in the last day. The description of the mark of the beast is startlingly accurate in describing the microchip, that's the RFID chip, which is being inserted into people's hands and foreheads. The information that is allowed out for the public to access has been heavily censored. Now, RFID chips were a conspiracy at first, right? There are companies and there are countries out there that are already using RFID chip technology. So what started out as a conspiracy is actually being developed and is alive today. If it was up to the satanic elite, as they call them here, yes, they would want everyone to have these RFID chips implanted into them. Still, in spite of all the intense secrecy, if a person takes the time to dig and find key items written by scientists, enough of the shadow picture develops to allow a person to realize that they already can produce several things the public is unaware of. Many times the articles will discuss only a tiny aspect of a larger process, or will say we have the knowledge to do such and such, but the actual doing is years away. And somehow people will swallow that we could have the capability to do that, but aren't. For instance, in a book that was published in 1979, Robert Gilmore McKinnell, professor of the Genetics and Cell Biology, College of Biological Sciences, University of Minnesota, wrote, "It has been reported that mice and some large domestic animals have been cloned. Humans have not. Because of this reproductive biology of humans, it is similar to that of mice and other mammals. It is likely that humans could be cloned. Some of the men who know what is actually being done are afraid to tell what they know. However, I do not have neither a professional reputation nor a job to guard. I have never taken an oath of secrecy to any of these organizations of the establishment. I can simply tell you the truth without fear." And that's how Kinninigan operates also. I don't have any oaths to any secret societies, organizations. So this is why I can tell you the truth without fear. Nobody tells me what I can't and can't talk about. Now, this is where things are going to start getting interesting. These are the subsections here, where we're going to talk briefly about how human cloning can be done and the different types of clones. Section B, instructions on how to clone a person. For those who want the medical description of just one way that cloning of people can be done, and this capability has been around for at least a decade and much longer secretly, the idea that we don't have the knowledge to do it is simply a myth for public consumption. Any microbiologist worth anything knows that we have the knowledge and the means. They can only claim that cloning of humans hasn't happened because supposedly no one wants to do it. A technique. Instructions on how to clone a human. The ovulation and ovaries of the woman can be monitored. Just before natural ovulation, there is an increase in luteinizing hormone, which is called the luteinizing hormone surge. This can be detected by either blood or urine samples. The growth of the follicle can be monitored by visualization with ovarian ultrasonography, ultrasound diagnosis, which will reveal on which side of the woman's ovaries the ripening follicle is found. This procedure will allow people to know when the follicle is ripe for the retrieval of the oocyte. When the time is appropriate, a hollow aspiration needle is inserted into one of the several ripe follicles under visual guidance of the laparoscope. The oocyte is removed with some follicle fluid. Experienced laparoscopists have a success rate over 90% in recovering the oocyte. Prior to this, it is likely that the woman would have been given clomifene or this drug used in combination with another drug so that there will be several eggs that can be retrieved at one time. The oocytes obtained from the ripe ovarian follicles are not fertilized when retrieved, although another process would be to fertilize first before extracting. If they don't fertilize first, then they could take the harvested oocytes and incubate them in a cultural medium for several hours to get maturation. They need maturation because they have not been taken from the ovary before ovulation. And are not as mature as spontaneously ovulated ova. Thawed or fresh semen is washed and centrifuged so that it will be diluted to the proper concentration to fertilize in vitro. Then in vitro fertilization is carried out. After some amount of hours, about 12, both pronuclei are identifiable for inoculation. The inoculation is accomplished with either one of two well-established methods. One method is to surgically inoculate it with a micropipette. Another is with a bleed of cytoplasm containing both the male and female pronuclei. Either method has worked fine. These nuclei, by the way, have been obtained from the inner cell mass of the early human embryo. This again is a well-established practice. Let us digress slightly and explain the method to obtain the nuclei. The zona pellucida must be removed from the cultured embryo. The trophectoderm, this is why I never went to medical school, trying to pronounce all these words, just bear with me now, separated from the inner cell mass, and then the cells disassociated with the appropriate enzyme in the calcium and magnesium-free salt solution. Going back to the cloning process, there are several methods for joining, that's a misprint there, joining a donor nucleus obtained from the source using just the mentioned method, with inoculated cytoplasm obtained from the woman's in vitro fertilized ovum. One might be to surgically implant with a micropipette. Another is fusion with an inactivated Sendai virus. Whichever way is considered most viable by those performing this will be used. Then the human nuclear transplant will be cultured until it can be placed in a human foster mother. When the clone has reached the 8 to 16 cell stage, it will be transferred into the foster mother. If needed, the transfer can be done later, and the clone is simply frozen. When the transfer takes place, the clone is drawn into a fine plastic tube, a catheter, which then in turn will be introduced through the cervical canal into the interior of the uterus. This is just one process for successfully cloning humans. Other more refined techniques may well be in use, which I have no doubt about. Section C, the 4 types of clones that are used by the Illuminati or the elite. C1, actual clones. This is a person who has been grown from a test tube called in vitro or implanted womb, which has the identical genetic makeup to another person, an identical twin, so to speak, in terms of genetic makeup. The genetic coding has reproduced, and a new person who is an identical twin is now in existence. Section C2, synthetic people. These are persons who look every bit as real as a real person, but simulate human beings. Certain tissues extracted from cattle are the starting point. This is part of the research for cattle mutilations. The process is an advancement of a process discovered in the late 1950s. The 1959 experiment was reported in a book in 1968 called The Biological Time Bomb by Gordon Rattray Taylor. Taylor describes the experiment done in France. They had extracted DNA from the cells of the khaki camphels and had injected it into white pecans, thinking that just possibly the offspring of the latter might show some character derived from the khaki camels. To their astonishment, the actual ducks they injected began to change. Their white feathers darkened, and their necks began to take on a peculiar curve, which is the mark of the khaki camel. The scientists working under the auspices of the Rothschilds developed this process by working at secret breakneck speed. They developed an advanced development of the processes they discovered with the DNA chicken experiment. By the late 1970s, synthetic people can be produced by the Illuminati. Now, are some of the celebrities that we're seeing in Hollywood actual synthetic people? We don't know. They could be. Organic robotoids. This is an artificial life form that is created through the processes that are totally different than cloning or synthetics. Organic robotoid technology is being made to make exact as possible copies of important people such as presidents and some other staff. This is the one, and Hollywood celebrities. For instance, the Jimmy Carter who came to Portland a few years ago, who I stood 2 feet away from and examined visually, was not the Jimmy Carter that had run for president. On Easter 1979, the first Robotoid model Jimmy Carter replaced the man Jimmy Carter. By the time Carter was seen by me, he must have been on at least Robotoid number 100. This is why a friend of mine who recently in Washington, D.C. almost bumped into President Clinton jogging, my friend was surprised by the lack of security. Interesting that they brought up Clinton, because we have been speculating that Hillary Clinton died a few years back. So the Democrats replaced Clinton with clones because they had no chance of winning the 2016 election. Probably another reason why they hate Trump so much. And every time we see Hillary Clinton in public, they look different every time. And same thing with Britney Spears also. Kaiser Aluminum News, which is put out by Kaiser Aluminum and Chemical Corporation, put out a series of articles to a specialized audience in the 1960s. This material was also published under the book The Dynamics of Change in 1967. Under the title heading Genetic Manipulation, we read, "The ability to control the formation of new beings may be one of the most basic developments of the future. Recent discoveries about the nucleic acids, the basic building blocks of life, have led to the belief that men may someday be able to treat genes in such a way that desired characteristics can be realized." Under the heading Man-Machine Symbiosis, we read, "Computers exist which can, remember, see, seek goals, reason, walk, sing on key, talk, be irritable, play games, grasp, adapt to an environment, and even design improvements in themselves. Man-like computers may one day contain plasma circulating through a viscera-like envelope, allowing them to be self-healing." Under the heading Human Robots, we read, going back to the TV show Westworld also, that's kind of what these organic robotoids also had. They had a sort of artificial intelligence that allowed them to learn things. Pretty interesting. So, an electronic circuit that imitates two neurons, the cells of the human brain, has been built and has enabled a robot to deal with some unexpected situations, but the neuron structure was bulky. The brain has billions of neurons, meaning an incredible miniaturization job will be necessary before truly human robots are developed. As the readers know, since the 1960s, when this was written, an incredible miniaturization job has been done in computers. What the public knows of that of miniaturization is incredible, and that is only part of what has actually occurred. In fact, scientists are now able to manipulate DNA to create computers. A basic thing that is needed to create a computer is material that will consistently change given some type of signal. This is because the computer works off of base 2, or what is simply an on-off switch, or a 0 or 1 system of numbers. Although we have made advancements since then with quantum computing, and what quantum computing does and why it's so fast. Quantum computers can have the integer of 0 and 1 at the same time, which allows them to quantum process information. So we even made some steps in quantum computing there, from the basic binary of 0 and 1. Living biological material is superior to other material for making computers because the heat created by the methods of conventional computers slows the speed. For supercomputers to work at great speed, they need to use biological material that will not heat up. This type of miniaturization has already been done. It creates computers far beyond what we are familiar with. Now, those quantum computers I'm talking about, they need to be chilled. I believe, like they're put like in freezing temperatures because that process will you need more than just a basic PC computer fan to cool those processors down. That's for quantum computers. That's all I'm saying. Organic robotoids are amazingly human-like. So human-like that it is hard for scientists who have created them to get used to the idea they are not humans. Biological computer brains for the robotoids came as a result of the research into holograms. If you tear up a conventional photograph, you ruin it. But if you tear up the film that produces a hologram, each piece still contains almost all the same image. This is why part of the brain of people can be removed and the brain regain what it had lost. A holographic image of a person's brain is made, and then the brain of a robotoid is made. The biological computer in its head is caused to form according to the holographic record of a person being copied. Some deviations from the holographic record are needed because the person is a robotoid and not a person. The brain of the robotoid has almost all the correct memory of the person reproduced, but the robotoid brain is really a computer made from biological material which is programmed. It is not a human brain. First, Clinton has the energy to job because it may well be a robotoid. And second thing, an assassination of robotoid is not so serious. These robotoids have biological computer brain that is programmed. They can think in a sense a computer thinks, but secret advances in understanding the human brain have allowed the makers of organic robotoids to have the memory of a person at a given point in time transferred to an organic robotoid. The key then for making what appears to be a clone, but they are not a real clone, is to capture the person to be copied and make a holographic copy of the brain memory and transfer that to the robotoid. How the memory of a person is transferred for organic robotoids. In order to successfully make human organic robotoids, in a sense to make bionic robots, the ability to simulate the personality of the person copied was necessary. The only viable solution was to learn how the brain coded memory and duplicate that process. The brain is entering into a memory about 10 million bits of information a second. The incredible storage capability of the human brain, which weighs on the average of 3.25 pounds in humans and 2.9 pounds in human females, is incredible. Now, ladies, I'm going to defend you there. Is this where the idea that men are smarter than women comes from? Because we have bigger brains? I know, I'm just trying to lighten up the subject here. In case you did not know, yes, the male brain is a little bit heavier than the female brain. However, it has it doesn't affect intelligence. I'll tell you that right now. I think women will even defend me on that one. It's probably typically because female skulls are smaller than male skulls, which is one of the things, going back to the transgenders, how we're able to pick out a lot of the transsexuals, because their skulls are so big. Yeah, because they're male skulls. The brain can easily store 100 million bits of information. It's no wonder we don't use it at all. All the computers in the world put together do not compare with one intelligent person's brain. Numerous tests and experiments from many different angles all showed investigators that the brain stored information as a hologram. The place in the brain where a memory is stored isn't just in one location. Memories are stored in synapses in a sequence, but they are stored in a holographic method. From what I understand, rhythmic pulses radiate from a small area of the brain like a stone creates ripples in a pond. Waves go through the cerebrum in the way that laser light is used to create a hologram. Different frequencies are used by the brain and different neuron impulses are used to reference the different details. These tags are the brain's own codes or reference standards for cataloging information. The brain has to be able to access the encoder-decoder for a particular piece of information to be retrieved for the conscious. Brain injuries can destroy one decoder and leave other decoders for a memory intact. When a person with MPD, DID is created, layers and layers of amnesia walls, actual walls, are built into the brain, and then specific codes are created which cause the mind to bring these compartments of memory to the surface. Each compartment is built into an alter or functioning part of the system. When a normal person may be aware of conscious and somewhat subconscious track running simultaneously, the mind of a multiple runs several tracks at once. On a local level with the brain, researchers have called memory storage unit an engram. Polypeptide dinucleic acid holds a piece of information such as a trauma memory. Proteins and other substances are involved in the memory process. However, how a person eats can influence their mental abilities. Now, that's interesting. How a person eats can influence their mental abilities. Is that why we have GMOs? And, we know that they put fluoride in the water to calcify the pineal gland, and that affects the brain also, even though they just tell you it's for healthy teeth or whatever, right? But it must be borne in mind that a memory is retained holographically in countless locations in the memory storage area of the brain, just as ripples of a stone dropped into water flow throughout the entire pond. The mind will have a number of reference points from which a particular memory can be decoded. The information that is stored in the brain is both dynamic and holographic. It is not stored like a book. If the dynamic impulses of the brain cease, so do the memories. Freezing and reviving a human brain will serve to erase its memory. I will try to explain things in clear terms if the reader will bear with me. The reason that we recognize objects so quickly is that the brain performs what is similar to what researchers call Fourier transfer. Messages are transmitted through Fourier transform messages. What is a Fourier transform message? A Fourier transform is a mathematical method where a complex wave or a complex pattern is broken down and converted into basically longer but precise signal of simpler frequencies. In other words, a squiggly line is hard to communicate, but via the Fourier transform it becomes a string of numbers which is quite easy to transmit. In other words, a complex squiggly line and a straight line after the conversion are both just easy to record. The brain stores information in a form similar to a Fourier transform, so that when it must look for similar patterns, it can quickly overlook everything but another identical Fourier transforms pattern. A mental comparison is done so quick that it gives the ability to the brain to instantly recognize people who one hasn't seen for years. The holograms of memory that the brain makes are transmitted through Fourier transform messages. Holograms are hard to destroy, for each piece contains the whole. Rip a holograph in half and you still have the same picture. Rip it in half again and the same picture remains. After a great many cuts in half, the hologram begins to get a little fuzzy as it loses some of its detail, but the entire picture is still there. This is why memories begin to get somewhat fuzzy, because we are only puffing up a small piece of the brain that recorded memory. However, if we can pull up more of the holographic image of the memory, we get more distinct, detailed picture. It was secret research in the holograms that gave Illuminati scientists the ability to copy the memory from an entire brain. A holographic image is made of the host's brain, and that is transferred into the biological matter functioning as a brain of the robotoid. Since the body and brain of the robotoid are not identical to the original person being copied, adjustments have to be taught and programmed into the mind of the robotoid. MKUltra mind control would fall under this. The entire process is sophisticated, but then so are many manufacturing processes today. And remember, this article was written in the 90s. Imagine what they are really capable of. So, I know that was a lot to take in scientifically. Might be a little boring, but if you really want to know the real answers, can they make an organic robotoid someone and even transfer the memories, and have they figured out the mysteries of the human brain and how to copy it? It's probably more real than you want to believe. That was the idea in the movie Ex Machina, if you've seen that, with the robotoids that are created in that movie, where they were able to finally create a human brain for the robots, or the robotoids, in exactly the same way that was just described in this article, by using the idea that memories are actually holograms in the brain. Pretty interesting stuff there. This section ain't going to be too long. Doubles, or lookalikes. There is an ongoing program to find lookalikes for prominent people, as well as a program to create secret identical twins, which are separated at birth and never see each other. George Bush's double was promiscuous, while George Bush is a pedophile. His double was living in France after Bush no longer president. By the use of doubles, or one of the synthetics or organic robotoids, the elite are able to sneak away and perform satanic rituals. On certain occasions, if Clinton or Bush needed... Now, the Clinton they're referring to is obviously Bill Clinton, not Hillary. She was kind of out of the spotlight at this time. This is from the 90s. If Clinton or Bush, and that's Bush Sr., obviously, only needed to do low-level tasks in front of the public, they could have their doubles substitute for them. The Illuminati, working on several organizations, has had a look at a like operation where doubles of certain key people are found, then used. In the book Desert Shield and the New World Order, published by North Point Tactical Teams, Topton, North Carolina, if you look on page 32, what a page number that is, like the 32-degree Mason, huh? You will see a picture of the original FDR, who had a mole over his eyes, and then you will see a picture of the double of Roosevelt, who they use, who had no mole and had different earlobes. Now, one of the things that we notice about a lot of clones in Hollywood is the earlobe, and that's one of the things that gives it away a lot of times. So a lot of truth to just looking at people's ears. Roosevelt may have died prior to when it was actually announced. Over the years, I've seen numerous photos exposing either the robotoids or the doubles that they use. The author's previous S93 article had some pictures of the dead Pope Paul the 11th. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That's Paul the 6th. Forgetting my Roman numerals here. What's wrong with me? Who my Be Wise as Serpents book said was murdered. What a name for a book. Be Wise as Serpents. The recent Pope was replaced by a double who had plastic surgery. As the double gets older, the plastic surgery will not look as convincing because time changes people differently. One ex-Catholic said the whole thing sounded like science fiction. It does sound far out at first, but the evidence is there for people to see. For myself, the ex-Illuminati have told me about the doubles program. From what I understand, double or look-alike program has been more successful than the robotoids and synthetics. The reason is that people live longer and are more dependable in some ways. The project to find look-alikes for prominent people have been very successful. Plastic surgery has also been done to help touch up the doubles, and we know that definitely going on in Hollywood. Section D, secret cloning sites. Not really going to read about this because we know that there are underground bases all around the world. We have everything from Dulce to Area 51, Area 52, and the new location of the CIA in Colorado. In case no one remembers, years ago, the CIA office in Washington, D.C. is there for more like nostalgia and administrative things, but the CIA moved their main base to Colorado. That's why we get the Denver airport there. And so there's a lot of things going on in Colorado. That's why I'm not going to read this part right here, because we know that there are underground bases all around the planet, all around the country, and obviously there are secret cloning facilities all around the country. Not just cloning humans, but possibly alien greys as well. I'll make a video about Dulce in the future, and DUMBs. That's deep underground military bases and others. Now, it's Oregon is, like in this article, said to have a secret cloning facility. I wouldn't doubt that. It's at Bull Run near Mount Hood, Oregon. The Dulce cloning facility, I'm not going to read about that. The Dulce base mainly deals with alien greys, and we're talking about kind of human clones, if you want to call them human. But anyway, this was a archived. I find this article fascinating because in a concise way it kind of gives you the reality of the science behind this ability to make clones, organic robotoids, synthetic people, and doubles. Now, I've made numerous videos on Clinton recently, so if you just do a search on my channel of Hillary Clinton, and I'll show you the different doubles that we've seen of her. It's theorized that she died in 2016 around the election, when she collapsed and was taken away by secrets. She was taken to Chelsea Clinton's apartment in New York City, and it was theorized that at that time she was cloned, and we've been seeing a lot of... I just made a joke on my channel about her clones are dying of Koru now, yeah, and every time we see her, because the Democrats had no way to beat Trump, and when their poster child, Hillary Clinton, died, that would have been the end. Well, it still was the end for him, and that's another reason why I think they hate Trump so much, is and this is probably why Hollywood was, as per, you know, what you heard about the stem cells of fetal tissue being used. This is probably why we have, people think it's mainly because for the human sacrifice of abortion, but there might be something more going on here with Planned Parenthood and why they need that fetal tissue off aborted fetuses, as sick as it sounds. It could be something that they're using for this cloning and organic robotoids or whatever. So, and this, again, this is the only information I can get publicly. And you got to remember that they're probably far more advanced than what we can just get in public. According to Donald Marshall, which I will cover, and I'd actually like to reach out to Donald Marshall and try to get him to chat with me. I know he follows my channel because he posted a video of mine on his Facebook account claiming that the reptilians actually look like the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, and he agreed with that. And ever since then, Donald Marshall kind of picked it up, in the idea of these Skeksis and talking about the Dark Crystal. I'm watching it right now, the new Netflix one. Don't worry, when I'm finished I will make a video about that. And he goes a lot into the human cloning, and he states that he himself is a clone, and he claims that their technology is so far advanced that they can basically just get your DNA now, a blood sample, any type of DNA sample, even DNA that can be recovered from a crime scene from a forensics unit, and just using that DNA alone they can clone people. How they get the transfer of memories from the brain and all that stuff, not really sure. From what I understand from this article, you'd have to have access to the real brain to be able to do that and copy the holographic memories. Yeah, this stuff starts sounding like science fiction, but it's based more in reality than most people want to think. And obviously in TV shows and movies, it's mocked with this all the time. Want to see a really good TV show about organic robotoids? I suggest watching Westworld. It's on HBO. Its third season comes out in 2020. The first two seasons were really good, and a lot of interesting thing that goes on. Like I said, Anthony Hopkins plays in here. and a very good show dealing with organic robotoids, because that's what they are in the show. And a good movie about human cloning, I suggest, is The Island. This was produced by Michael Bay, I believe. So yeah, Michael Bay. It's a pretty good action movie, actually. Two clones escape the facility only to realize they are clones of real humans. They are told that they are in this facility because it's the last quote-unquote uncontaminated place on Earth, and they need to stay here to be safe, and they escape, and then they find out it's a cloning facility, and everyone in the facility is a clone of a living human. And with these clones in the movie The Island, they are actually brought up to the age of their living counterparts, human ones. Very interesting. And it's a service that's provided for what they said about the doubles in that article, when they want to go off and do a ritual or go somewhere and they just need a stand-in for public consumption. So, interesting things there. And you even have people like Saddam Hussein and other leaders around the world who we know use body doubles all the time. And it was no secret. And very interesting things there, right? Anyway, that's going to be all for this video. This video was kind of lengthy. I didn't expect it to run on that long. I usually don't make my lectures that long, but there was a lot of stuff to cover with cloning here. It's not an easy topic to cover. I could probably still pull up more information, and you know, this is why I want to cover the Donald Marshall Manifesto and the Dulce, in another video, because I will do another video on alien cloning and Dulce, and I'll also do redo a video on the Donald Marshall Manifesto and what's going on with that, and very interesting things there. Anyway, if anyone is able to help me out with donations through Patreon, PayPal, cryptocurrency, or we also have a Teespring Raging Reptilian merchandise store, because I am not monetized on YouTube. You will not see ads running on my lectures here, ad-free, so anything will help out. I also have content that is only available to my Patreons, and kind of going in conjunction with this transpocalypse that's going on. Once a month, I'm going to start doing lectures that are only available to Patreons. Last month I covered some of the occult things with Nazis in 2 videos. This month I'm going to do a lecture on the transpocalypse and really what's going on with that, why they're promoting it. These are topics I'm not allowed to talk about on YouTube. That's a no-no. Can't talk about trannies, can't talk about Nazis, and you can't talk about false flag shootings. So I'll just make those videos only available on Patreon for obvious reasons. To me, I'm not going to have my hands tied behind my back over Google censorship telling me what I can't and can't talk about, even though I live in a constitutional, you know, I have First Amendment rights, but, you know, you get the idea with Google censorship, right? So anyway, that's going to be all for this video. All these links will be in the description. And just remember, you want to get a human clone done, Clone-Aid, right here. You can fill out their contact form. You want to get yourself cloned? Believe me, you don't want a clone of Kinninigan roaming the earth. Can you imagine 1,000 Kinnigans roaming the earth? Oh, the Illuminati wouldn't like that now, would they? So, but it's just the point of showing that this stuff is more real than you want to believe. And we even have companies out there. They got a reference on here. Michael Jackson's pioneer vision of cloning. They have a privacy policy for... Why? What are they saying? They cloned Michael Jackson? I don't know. Read between the lines on that one. And again, if you're interested, on my channel, Dave Chappelle Sticks and Clones. And yeah, here's one of the doubles of Hillary Clinton right there. That doesn't even look like Clinton. That was recent. I did that video 6 months ago, where we got this. Let me try to increase this a little bit so you can see it, in case you're on a phone or something. Yeah, you see this? That's one of Hillary Clinton's doubles. That is obviously not Clinton. She doesn't have the jowls on her face. The jowls are those kind of lines that come in when you smile. I call them jowls. And most obviously is the David Chappelle clone. And we just had a Black Mirror episode with Miley Cyrus dealing with the transfer of consciousness and that they didn't need the human anymore. They were just going to make her a singing hologram, talking about the holographic memories. And of course, I will do a future video on the Dulce base and the supposed alien cloning program and the Donald Marshall Manifesto. Anyway, that's going to be all for this video. Any questions or comments, leave them below. And until we speak again, this is Kinninigan, and take care.